Everyone thinks the government has a choice between compassion and toughness, between letting people stay or sending them home. But that's what ideology sounds like. That's not how governments actually think. The real question isn't about mercy or strength, it's about money. Specifically about which bill arrives first and who pays it. Because every option has a cost, the only difference is timing and whether anyone notices before the next election. When you let people stay, the system moves. Farms get workers, construction sites stay staffed, restaurant kitchens keep running. The jobs that need doing get done, and the economy doesn't seize up waiting for enough citizens to fill every gap. Undocumented immigrants buy things, they pay rent, they consume. That spending generates tax revenue, and you don't have to spend thousands of dollars per person on deportation. It feels like the easy choice. The system absorbs people and keeps rolling forward. But the bill comes later. When you signal that the law doesn't matter, you send a message to the next person and the person after that. More people come because they see others stayed. The welfare costs accumulate, emergency rooms see more patients, public schools expand services, housing support gets stretched. These costs compound year after year. The deeper problem is bureaucratic. The visa processing system gets clogged. People who want to come legally get stuck in the same system that's now overloaded. The acceptance policy that seems humane actually becomes a wall blocking legal immigration. When you don't enforce the law, the signal spreads fast. Word travels that the border is porous, that if you make it across, you can stay. More people come because they see others stayed. Each new arrival means more pressure on housing, more demand for services, more people competing for low-wage jobs, which drives wages down at the bottom of the labor market. Emergency rooms see more patients with no insurance. Public schools expand services for students with language barriers. Housing assistance gets stretched thinner. These aren't theoretical costs, they're real expenses that come from real budgets, and those budgets come from taxes. Someone pays, usually it's the people living in the same neighborhoods, already struggling with their own costs. But the deepest dysfunction is bureaucratic. The visa processing system was already overwhelmed. Millions of cases sit in backlogs for years. A legal applicant waits 5, 6, 7 years for an answer. Some give up and go home, some give up and stay illegally. The acceptance policy creates a perverse incentive. It's actually faster and easier to come illegally and stay than to apply legally and wait. When people see undocumented immigrants getting services and jobs while legal applicants wait forever, the entire system loses legitimacy. Support for legal immigration declines. The acceptance policy that was supposed to be humane actually destroys political support for any immigration at all. When you enforce the law, something shifts structurally. People see that breaking the rule has consequences. The border becomes a meaningful line instead of a suggestion. Over time, fewer people attempt the crossing. The system stabilizes, rules mean something again. But the immediate cost is brutal. One deportation costs between $2,000 and $10,000. Court hearings, detention, transport, legal representation, administrative processing. Multiply that across millions of cases, and you're talking about enormous sums pulled from the budget. When you remove workers, gaps appear, farms can't harvest, construction projects slow down, restaurants cut hours. That labor shortage gets passed to consumers as higher prices. But many people who get deported come back. Within months, they're back across the border. The deportation didn't solve anything, it just created a cycle. Worse than that is how the system actually works on the ground. Immigration enforcement officers face quotas, they need numbers. So they don't hunt for dangerous criminals, they hunt for the easiest targets. The person who's been in the community for 20 years, who has a job and children in school, they're easy to find and process. The violent criminal is harder, so the person who's built a life gets deported while the actual threat stays. The policy says one thing, the execution does another. The per-person expense is staggering. One deportation averages between $2,000 and $10,000 depending on complexity. Multiply that by millions of cases and you're talking about budgets that dwarf most government programs. The economic shock is immediate and widespread. Agriculture depends on seasonal labor. Construction depends on low-wage workers. Food service, hospitality, landscaping, entire industries run on undocumented labor. Remove millions of workers and you don't get full employment for citizens, you get labor shortages. Farms don't get harvested, projects don't get completed, prices rise to compensate for scarcity. That price increase is a tax on everyone, especially people with the least money. Groceries cost more, rent goes up, construction materials get expensive. Immigration officers work under pressure to produce numbers. Quotas exist whether anyone officially admits it or not. The incentive structure doesn't point toward catching dangerous criminals. It points toward catching whoever is easiest to find and process. The person who's been in the same job for 15 years, who has a driver's license and work address, they're easy. The violent criminal with no fixed address is hard. So the system optimizes for easy targets, not dangerous ones. Long-term residents get deported. Parents with citizen children get deported. The person who hasn't committed a crime beyond immigration violation gets removed before the person with an assault conviction. Even when deportations happen, they often don't stick. Research shows significant numbers of deported individuals return within months. Some try again immediately, some have family or economic ties that pull them back. The deportation was expensive, traumatic, and temporary. Mass deportation campaigns create images that become politically toxic. Children separated from parents, multi-generational families broken up, communities traumatized. Lawsuits slow enforcement, mayors and governors refuse cooperation. The enforcement machinery gets gummed up by its own intensity. Immigration enforcement becomes a battlefield instead of a function. This isn't about choosing the moral option. Both doors have costs, the only question is which costs you're willing to absorb and when. Accept people and you pay slowly. The economy runs, labor gaps close, tax revenue flows. But costs accumulate invisibly. You're paying the bill in installments, hidden inside budget categories nobody watches. Deport people and you pay all at once. The cost is massive and immediate, billions in enforcement, price spikes as labor disappears. But the policy often doesn't even work, half the people come back. You paid the price for an outcome you didn't get. Governments aren't being compassionate or tough, they're not choosing between values. They're choosing between two different payment plans for two different outcomes, neither of which is guaranteed to work. They're calculating which bill is easier to hide. Which costs can be spread thin enough that voters don't feel it all at once. The government isn't moral, it's not ruthless, it's just trying to figure out how to delay the problem until after the next election. Would you rather pay slowly and watch the system fill up with accumulated costs nobody tracks? Or pay all at once for a policy that costs billions, disrupts the economy, and may not even work because half the people come back anyway? Neither option solves the problem. Both just choose which version of failure you're willing to accept. And that's the real reason it hasn't worked.